Pope Francis may be back in the Vatican now, but many Filipinos still relish their encounter with the pontiff. On social media, Twitter user Wilkris Bugarin says he can still feel the Pope's impact on him, while another netizen described the feeling of being away from the Pope as separation anxiety. Twitter user Stephanie Estella, meantime, summed up her papal encounter in one word: hangover. While over at Instagram, user Early De Vera shared a snapshot of a chapel's altar right after she offered a prayer for the Holy Father. We now have with us two people who recently met Pope Francis, Brahmachari Tanrita Chaitanya and Professor Bhavani from Embracing the World, a humanitarian organization that donated $1.5 million to Yolanda victims. Their group was recently invited by Pope Francis for an interreligious dialogue against slavery entitled Embracing Victims with Compassion and Dignity. Good evening, welcome to Nightly News. Sorry about that. The name.
Thank you so much for having us now.
Wonderful to have you. Now, you are actually here because you're on your way to Tacloban tomorrow.
Yes, that's correct.
Tell us about this, the aid you gave when Yolanda struck the Philippines.
So it was in April when the actual presentation ceremony took place, and our founder of Embracing the World, Amma, was deeply touched by the tragedy and so many suffering people. And so she felt this outpouring of compassion for the people of the Philippines. And this is her way of expressing it through Embracing the World.
I remember Amma in the news. She was the one who hugged people. She was hugging people. What is it, 6 million people she hugged around the world?
34 million people.
Wow. And this is the point of the hug. It's really just it's some kind of healing.
It's a communion and an expression of unconditional love and compassion. Yes.
So you were with her in the Vatican. You met Pope Francis for this interfaith dialogue. Tell us about this.
It's such an amazing historic event because the core values of Amma and Embracing the World are so much in alignment with what the Holy Father was trying to accomplish on that occasion by bringing the world leaders together to end such a terrible practice all over the world. And the inspiration that was pervading the hall was just spellbinding.
This was just last December, and he invited you there, didn't he?
Just a few weeks ago, yes. Yeah. And so right on the heels of that, the synchronicity is just so amazing how, you know, he came here, and right after he came, we came. Yeah. And we're also, as on that day, it was to eradicate the suffering experienced by so many victims of that tragedy. Now here it is, it's about eradicating the suffering of people of a natural disaster tragedy. Right. And I feel blessed just to be able to come here and participate in this.
It's wonderful what you're doing. Yeah. So Professor Bhavani, you are the coordinator for the Livelihoods program at Embracing the World. Tell us about this program.
So our organization has been involved in helping people develop livelihood skills for the past about 20 years. And I think we have trained more than 100,000 people. And a part of the fund that was donated to the Filipino tragedy is being handled by the PDRF, the Philippine Disaster Recovery Foundation. Okay. And we are looking to see how we can explore taking it one step further to helping people gain livelihood skills, especially in the areas in and around Tacloban and also Masbate, if I've got that right. Yeah.
Very important, because Pope Francis spoke a lot about really eradicating poverty. And this year is supposed to be the year for the poor in the Philippines. So what are you planning to do? You go to Tacloban tomorrow. What is on the program?
We'll be visiting a lot of the affected areas and areas where we're already building things, but also
schools under construction for 400 children there. And there's livelihood programs that are already, you know, under planning, and we're just there to evaluate and assess the potential.
Yeah. Because you have to do enough field research before you actually decide what you want to do.
It is a lot of work. Yeah. Now, a lot of these messages sometimes can really go over our heads, and it's very interesting because you've done a lot of work with the UN also, where you talk about seeing life as a whole rather than divided into personal and professional, because in the workplace there's so much distraction. You give talks on that.
Yes, I've given talks.
So maybe if you can sum this up for us just quickly, how to really keep this balance, remember these messages in our life.
Well, right, yeah, well, because spirituality and our worldly life are not two things, they're really one thing. And I think this is what people like Amma and the Pope are trying to tell us, is that in order to be a more productive person in the world, you also have to nurture your spiritual side. And to nurture your spiritual side, you also have to keep yourself engaged in some kind of active service in the world as well. So they're like two banks of a river. It needs both banks to flow vibrantly with power.
Very well said. Professor Bhavani, some final words?
I'm just happy to be here.
Well, wonderful. Thank you for being here and really helping us. This is really a blessing for all of us. Thanks very much for being here. Thanks for your time. Again, thanks for joining us, Brahmachari Shantamrita and Professor Bhavani from Embracing the World.